Boom! Good morning, good
Good
afternoon, good
morning.
evening, wherever you
Evening, yeah.
are. Hey everyone, welcome to the Redo Virtual Events Live Encaptivating Virtual Events talk show series. I am definitely Zafzan with my co-host here.
Shannon Malkin Daniels.
I haven't had my coffee yet, so I don't know how this session will go, but you all know I always bring my own built-in, caffeine in me, so we're ready to get started. Shannon, what is this talk show about?
Today, we are going to be talking about when Gizmo eats it after midnight, which is all about tech gremlins and those tech problems that inevitably arise when we're doing virtual events. And this talk show itself, in Captivating Virtual Events, is all about how to help you level up your virtual and hybrid events so that you can make what? Yes,
Yes,
connections.
connections. Woohoo! All right, we're kind of excited today because I know last week we started off the pilot show with just the two of us, and we always love to bring our tribe, our friends, our girlfriends from all over the world. Doesn't matter where you are, where they are. We love to bring people into our conversation because I think we're just not the only two people who can share our experiences, right, Shannon? We're just gonna go ahead and let people, share theirs too. So today, our guest and who's joining in our conversation is Sabrina Tigo, and I'm gonna bring her on camera now. Whoop
Yay!
whoop! Hey,
Whoop, whoop. Hello, hello. Good
Sabrina.
morning.
I'm too hyper for non-caffeine and no coffee yet. So
Oh,
welcome. I'm
thank
pretty
you.
excited to start off this conversation. Are you, Shannon?
Yes, this is a good one. I'm
Yeah,
very
this is a
excited
good
about
one.
this one.
So, I guess my question, let's get this conversation started because I know all three of us combined, we have so much to share. And I know
Yes.
Serena, when we were behind the stage, I kept asking you like, the experiences. And then I said, like yesterday, I said, why don't you come on and join us? And you're like, oh, I have so much to share. But before we get started, just a quick 30 seconds intro, Sabrina, of who Sabrina
Yes.
Tika
So,
is.
so um, I'm Sabrina Tika from OpEx Consulting Services, which is it's a small IT company that does various levels of tech um, collaboration. My husband works with larger companies. I work with small entrepreneurs. And the last 18 months has been a wild ride.
Mine wasn't only 18 months. In fact, it was just rejuvenated last night. So I have so much to share. So, ladies, let's just get this going and just, what does it really look like when tech gremlins just decide to make a grand entrance at our virtual events? You're just like, right? Because I know when Shannon and I did this event almost like a month ago, that was exactly what happened. So we have experienced it. And when I started my own journey in this virtual space, I remember we were at in-person location. So I used to joke about this, ladies, like people keep talking these days, right? Oh, hybrid events. I'm looking at them like I may be the godmother of hybrid events. I've actually experienced firsthand, like experiences about almost a decade ago. I remember we were about to go live because back then I used Google Hangouts on air, and 30 minutes before we went live, um, they decided to update their platform. I know. And last night too, I had that similar experience. So, what how do you manage your tech meltdowns? So I'm gonna kind of like go to Shannon first because Shannon and I had experienced this big time. And from somebody in the event tech world, I think that's a lot to say about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will actually say we're having a tech gremlin right now. The YouTube live video is telling us it's not allowed to be streamed within another platform right now. So the
It's
backup is
hilarious.
go to YouTube Live. So I went over into Encaptiv. There's a link in there where you can just click on it. It'll pop open YouTube in a new window, and I posted it in the chat. So that's our backup plan, right? We're talking about these backup plans. What happens when it's supposed to live stream through a canister, but YouTube says, I don't want to let you. We have
So basically, thank you. It's this time I double, triple checked before we went on this morning, and I'm like, I hope it doesn't get. So I'm glad it's not on my end. This is how it
so I
seems
have to
like.
understand what's going on with that, but we had a backup plan in place, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
but tech gremlins do pop up. I mean, you can test it, you can do everything you want. Like it'll be working 5 minutes prior, and then it just won't be working all of a sudden. So, not quite sure why those things happen, but they happen. Gremlins get in the works, and it pops up. And so, what you have to do is you just have to be prepared for the unexpected, because the unexpected is going to happen with technology. Zeph experienced this last night. 20 minutes prior to going live, all of a sudden, DNS servers just went down and the website wasn't accessible. So, yeah, so there's lots of things that can crop up and ruin your event. The key is to be prepared for those and have ways to. The show must go on, right? Let the
I
show
agree.
continue to go on.
I agree. And what has been your recent experience, Sabrina? Because I would love to see the past 18 months, how those tech gremlins said, hello, Sabrina, we're just going to test you, right? Because you've been in training, you've been learning a lot. So let's just put those skill sets to test.
Yes. So I'll give you three examples that happened just recently.
Oh, all recently.
Just
Love it.
just recently, yeah. I mean, I could give you hundreds, but I'll give you the last recent ones. One was a small event that a coach was doing, a training session. And of course, we were doing this on Zoom because that's the platform that she uses for that particular thing. It's not a lot of fancy tech. And her Wi-Fi went down. Fortunately, she had made me co-host, so we were able to continue. If she hadn't, everything would have gone down, right? So I have
Yep.
another one where it was a hybrid. So the person on site was the main producer. His Wi-Fi went down, so all the streams went down. Fortunately, we had to monitor because there really wasn't a monitoring role. And so people were talking about what happened to the stream on the platforms like Facebook and things like that. So I realized that, I jumped in and helped out. But having those backup roles, like you said, and then recently, couple not too long ago, the hybrid again experience, the main producer AV went down.
Oh,
So
I.
it's like, but we've had cases where speaker tech went down.
Yep.
Yep.
So we have on the technical side to plan for that, but we also have on the presenter side, when speakers their tech go down, we need to always have a backup plan, like you said. What are
Yep.
we going to do in those instances?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I think
The
Absolutely.
preparing your audience,
Mm-hmm.
expectation, like you have to tell them. In a hotel, that you could go chat with this person. No, what
Yes.
happened? The lights went out,
Yeah.
but when the lights go out in the virtual space, everybody's lost. So I
Yes.
think it is really important to set your audience up and let them know these are our general announcements.
I love that. And I love that. Here's what I want to add to that is this, right? So, as my experience last night was pretty much actually also about 35 minutes before I went live. I always check in because it's like half an hour before showtime because I was producing for a client, a big automotive conference. So 30 minutes is check-in time. And I went on and I just finished a conversation with Shannon and I kept asking her, Shannon, why doesn't my computer say DNS, blah, 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 proxy, what? Because I'm not as geeky as she is, So I'm like, okay, here's the tech lady here. I'm going to ask her. She goes like, I don't know. So I'm like, okay, great. So I'm online with you. So I guess it's okay. So I shut everything down. I was just about to go into the studio. And then I couldn't go in and it just kept on swirling. And I thought it was my computer. So let me try my website. I tried my website and I'm like, it's not working. And I'm panicking, right? Because I'm due 5 minutes in the studio. And then I pulled out my other computer because we're talking backup to the backup plan. I pulled like 5 devices, including my iPad. This is no joke. I wish there was a, like, behind the scenes camera to capture my hyperventilation. And I step over to my PC, my small PC. It's the same thing, and I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? So, long story short, I asked my tech person, and we were able to figure out nothing wrong with the internet. I'm sorry, nothing wrong with the Wi-Fi, nothing wrong with the computer, but it was the actual DNS server that we have no control over, right? Like, you just kind of hang in there. Gremlin says, hang in there. We'll be right back. So that was exactly what happened. But I was telling Shannon later, I'm like, if only you saw me sweat, that wasn't funny. Now I know how you felt on the day we had our expo. So that's it. And you mentioned something good, Sabrina, that you said, sometimes people behind the scenes producing the virtual event, they don't necessarily think about the processes, and also, that there need to be an assigned person to very specific tasks. Like, if this happens, who do we go to and when? So I love that. And that's why many of you out there, if you're watching today, right, think about, especially if you're doing big virtual events, think about working with producers or tech teams that can actually bring this idea on processes on, because it's not a daily thing. And I think I'm going to bring in a topic that Shannon and I kind of agree on. So if you decide to do virtual events, so this is the disclaimer, I always say I have a hashtag, I'm allergic to Zoom, not because of the product. It's an excellent product for online meetings, but if you actually do on virtual events platform, sometimes you take a little bit more production work and like strategy processes. So even with Zoom, actually there's a lot more technical stuff with Zoom. Yes. Right,
Well,
Shannon?
Sabrina had mentioned the speakers aspect, and I think that's a
Yes.
really important thing because,
Yes.
and you mentioned Zoom, and so I want to tie these together because
Yep.
people are so used to just clicking a button, Zoom pops
Yes.
open, you're good to
Yes.
go, camera flips on. And the part
Yep.
of the reason for that is because you have already downloaded Zoom to your computer. You have set up all your preferences, you have put in all your settings. And a lot of people forget, because it's been well over a year plus since they did this, that they actually did all of the work to set that up and then had to get used to using Zoom. Virtual events platforms are no different. You have to log, each one's slightly different. You have to log in ahead of time. No, you're not usually downloading something because a lot of these are web-based platforms.
Yeah.
But when
Browser
it's
based.
web-based,
Right.
that means it acts differently in every single browser. So you
Right.
need to make sure that it works in your browser. On top of that, everybody has different browser settings. Make sure that it works with your browser settings and you don't have like pop-ups or cookies blocked. That might affect some of these virtual events platforms.
Agree.
And get on and do that technical check ahead of time. And then, so that's part A of that, preventing the tech gremlins or mitigating the tech gremlins, is making sure you log on first. Where we've seen the big problems come in with speakers is they wait till 5 minutes before their session and they're expecting just to log on and everything to work perfectly. So that's A, that's one thing. B, with speakers being prepared and having a backup plan, one of the things I like to suggest is if someone's Wi-Fi goes down or the speaker cuts out or all of a sudden just something happens and the speaker stops transmitting, is having some kind of pre-recorded video or pre-recorded session to throw
Yes.
up as a backup plan. And so
Yep.
going into your sessions knowing, hey, we're doing this live.
Yep.
Something inevitably is going to happen. Murphy's Law and all. It's great when it goes flawlessly, but when it doesn't, you want to have that backup plan in place. So having pre-recorded sessions, some of the things we've also been seeing. So one of the things we've done as a new design in Encaptiv over the past 6 months is we added in hybrid sessions, not just the ability to have hybrid events, but have hybrid sessions where you can pre-record the content and then the speaker can be sitting there in the background and then flip their camera on for the live Q&A. So there's still that live interactive component. The speaker can be there in the chat and answering questions, but then afterward they can have that live conversation aspect. So having kind of a hybrid session is also another type of backup planner to mitigate those risks of the gremlins
Absolutely.
happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I actually want to also say that, that you just have to be prepared because it's technology based, right? So wait, I just want to quickly say hello to Anna and whoever's watching in right now, tuning in. If you're on our platform, the Encaptiv platform, I will not be able to see your chat, but Shannon can, and Shannon can read them to me. But Anna saying here, do not leave logging in the last minute. That's Gremlin Chow. Agree. I so agree with that. All right, we're gonna take 30 seconds intermission, and we will be right back.
Explore and discover with us why virtual events are becoming more essential to what you do and how you connect with the audience. How to choose the right type of virtual event for you. What kind of tools and resources are needed to produce your virtual event. How to pick the right virtual event service providers. How to monetize and profit from your virtual event. For more exclusive content, resources, and opportunities regarding virtual events, join our online community.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You are watching episode 2 of Encaptivating Virtual Events, and today we're talking about when Gizmo eats after midnight, and we are joined in this conversation with our guest, Sabrina Tika. Hi.
Hi.
So I want to ask you ladies, right? So we're talking about like the meltdowns that we've had, so we are some sort of discussing like what we can do. I just want to share like the 3 things that I do for my backup to the backup to the backup to the backup. So I usually tell people, you got to do a lot of testing. Doesn't matter, what you do, you have to do a lot of testing because this involves event technology. 2, if and when possible, work with a producer or a technical team who understands your, what should I say? I wouldn't say just, your goals, but who understand a little bit more technology than you do, because there's a lot of processes that need to be in place to have a better virtual event experience or hybrid event. Because as you can see, there's a lot of, logistics, moving parts when we're doing virtual events. As you can see, I'm like, trying to do multitasking behind it. And Sabrina and Shannon can relate to that. So you kind of like, best not to work alone. So if you have a technical team, that would be great. And I think last but not least is definitely, I talk about this a lot. Take time to educate yourself because there's going to be a lot of trial and error. And Sabrina could probably add to that since the past 18 months. What has been the biggest takeaway for you when it comes to production of virtual events, Sabrina?
Well, one of the things like you guys mentioned is testing. And there are so many levels of testing. There's so many levels of testing. I came from the IT industry and we tested every darn thing before it went to production. So I understand that methodology and I also understand how to test. So I have a little bit of an advantage there. However, a lot of people don't value testing and rehearsal as much as they should. And never ever be a speaker on somebody else's stage, never be a helper, producer, collaborator without honoring that person by testing and showing up to tech check, showing up to
Hallelujah.
rehearsal.
Hallelujah.
Because, we've had problems with firewalls and Chromebooks or somebody having 2 screens and they're
VPNs.
looking at the wrong screen. And there's so many little
Preach.
things like
Anna
that.
says.
We
Yes.
want you as a speaker to look good. We want you to present the best. Not every stage in-person speaker really understands the virtual stage speaking.
Yep.
Thank you for
So,
saying that, Sabrina, because I think that
yes.
you brought on a very, very important because I want to kind
I'm
of also
itching. I'm
I
itching
know.
here. Like,
I also want to
oh
kind of go
my
to you, Shannon, because so here's the point, because you made an excellent point, Sabrina, because our goal as producers behind the scenes, we want to make sure that if you show up on screen, that you're represented well, that you shine as bright as you can. I'm having goosies. Yeah, hashtag that. Zav
Yes,
goosies, right?
yes.
So I always talk about that. And there is a difference showing up online and in person. So as a presenter, I want to say this, presenters, speakers, if you're a pro, and I'm going to put this back to Shannon, even if you're a pro, doing live, like in-person presentations and speaking engagements, I want to tell you, I can tell you if you're not a pro on the screen in 2 seconds. So you need to take a little bit of time because it's a new stage, it's a new location, right, Shannon? What's your take on that? Because I remembered, I met somebody at a recent virtual conference, and I just say, hey, what do you like to talk about? Speaker training. And I started laughing. What's your thought on that, Shannon? New age of
Yes.
speaking.
And the reason why I was itching to say something over here is because my background's in interpersonal communication, and
Yeah.
I teach public speaking, and that's something that's like near and dear to my heart and very important to me. And actually, a friend of mine, Sandra Long, who I'm in a professional speaking group with, actually I've been on a little hiatus. I need to get back involved with that group. It's a fantastic group. But she made a post on LinkedIn just yesterday about practicing before you go on stage as a speaker. And while this was geared towards in-person type of stuff, we all were chiming in going, yes, you have to practice, you have to stand up, you have to deliver, videotape yourself, watch yourself back. And we're talking about all these things you do before you go on the real stage. The same thing happens virtually. But for some reason, people aren't practicing before they get on the virtual stage. I think, in a way, all these virtual meetings have ruined us because we think a virtual presentation now is the same thing as a virtual meeting, and it's not. You can show up to a meeting right beforehand and be okay. If you're presenting in that meeting, you still need to prepare. But if
Another
you are
Zev goosies.
but if you are presenting at an event, whether it's in person or virtually, you need to show up early. You need to do a mic check. For virtual, you need to do a video check. You need to make sure your slides are working. You need to make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to. Even if
Yep.
you did a tech check and an onboarding a week before, those
Yeah.
tech gremlins, they sneak in, and sometimes 5 minutes before go time, something's different. Maybe you downloaded a new app to your computer, or something changed in your browser settings, or I don't know, Chrome did a release, a new release to
A
security right
Facebook
before you
apocalypse, right? We don't know. That
or
recently happened. That is so true.
Yes.
I mean, like, Facebook apocalypse. That's so true, and
Everything
that's
is
why Anna
valuable.
put that just now. She says
Yeah.
Facebook apocalypse. No, that's true, and because presenting and preparing and presenting in person has different dynamics with the technical aspect of showing up on a virtual event stage. And you
Yep.
make a great point, and thank you, ladies, for sharing that,
I
because
have
I really
one other
think it's
thing I want to add real
yeah,
quick is
yeah.
that when speakers are doing their tech check or any
Mhm.
presenter, make sure you're in the space that you're going to be presenting in. Make sure you're using the same computer
Yes.
because it's going to look and feel and work differently. So don't
Mm-hmm.
think that you just bring any computer or I can do
Yep.
this tech check. No, do it
Yep.
exactly the way it is a dress rehearsal. Do it
Yes.
as a dress rehearsal.
Yep.
Exactly. And
And
that's
the
what
point
we
I was trying to make is that while, yes, it's different to be in virtual than it is to be in person, you need to treat virtual with the same respect you would treat being in an
thank
on-person
you.
stage. You're not going to show up
Absolutely.
at that on-person stage 2 minutes before go time and expect to
Yes,
be
no.
mic'd up, your slides working, comfortable with the room, comfortable with the stage, whatever it is. So why would you do that in virtual? It's
Yep.
the same level of importance. So you have to treat
Yep.
it with the same level of importance. Show up early, do your tech checks.
Yeah. But the thing is too is that your visibility is so much more you
Spot on
know,
right here, like focused.
in a live space you only have those audience, right?
Yeah.
In a
Yeah.
virtual space you got a global audience.
Limitless.
You
Yes.
you are even more visible. So
Yes.
Yeah.
make sure you prepare.
Absolutely. Anna's laughing on the side note. Hey, she goes like, wear pants. Enough said. Live streamer humor. I agree. And she also said lighting, mic, background wrinkles in green screen, boot up your PC early because updates are real on Windows. And that's
Oh,
true.
yes.
Updates
And
are
Mac too.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have about 5 minutes, lady, but I just want to kind of like, have this conversation before we go, because my thing definitely, when I have a backup to the backup, we talked about testing. Then we also talk about, work with the producer when possible, and definitely take time to educate yourself. And there's a lot of good other good points that both of you made. So here's my thought. uh what was it? I lost my train of thoughts, but here's my thought. What would be your biggest advice to our viewers who are watching this today, about how can we stay calm and manage all these tech gremlins and the meltdowns? So what's your biggest one, advice to our audiences out there, Sabrina? How they can do better?
Never produce alone. If you have a backup team, if you're on stage, you have an understudy. If you don't have a few understudies, that way you can feel supported, and you need somebody on the team with a calm
Yes.
head.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely. Shannon, what about you?
Have a backup plan in place. Be ready for the unexpected to happen, because not 100% of the time, but probably close to it, there is some kind of technical something that somebody will experience. We're dealing with the internet, we're dealing with different browsers, we're dealing with different technologies. So just be prepared for the unexpected and have something in place so that when and if something does go wrong, you're not going to hit that panic mode. You're going to say, okay, this is what's going to happen. Problem solved, boom, go, moving on, right? And the show
Yeah.
must go on.
And I also think, from my perspective, and to what Sabrina was saying, we kind of like bundle this conversation up. I think for me, is kind of like start early. Doesn't matter whether when you're doing the event on the event day, or you're planning it like 6 months ahead, right? Start
Amen.
early, because the reason I'm saying this is because there's a lot of testing to be done.
Yes.
The testing is the part where I get, because we're talking about event technology, right? So start early to allow yourselves to create a process to understand the event platform, or the event technology that you're using for your virtual event. Because sometimes the technology, like we all have experience, can change in half an hour before you go, live. So I think, understanding that, and part of starting early allows us all to create processes like the backup to the backup to the backup. If this happens, create scenarios that says, if this happened, where do we go? If this happened, where do we go? One of the things that I also do is always back up my virtual event platform. So I have like 3 things that I do. Basically, if there's a virtual event, if I cannot get this going, I'm going to be able to just share on social media, or quickly send an email and go like, boom, we've moved location. The beauty of virtual events is just that, because if you actually have in-person events, let's just say, something happened at a hotel, right? You have, I don't know, fire, flood, whatever. You can't do in the spur of a moment, right, ladies? So, any last words, Shannon, before we go?
Just tech check, be prepared, backup plans, right? Those are be prepared for the unexpected. That's really my last words of advice there.
Oh, and also, if anyone wants our event tech and production guide.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So you can Zeph will pop it up on the screen there, I believe.
Yep.
There you go. And you can log in to our Encaptivating Virtual Events platform to A, catch the replay of this if you weren't able to catch it live, and then B, you can download this guide by clicking the link in there. It will take you directly to the landing page where you can, boom, download it with all of our tips on how to select the right event tech for your event. You don't want to be trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. And a production guide with lots of great production tips about lighting and production and all kinds of other really awesome stuff that Zeph's put together in a beautiful guide for you on that side of it. So go get
Yep.
that.
Absolutely. So, folks, what we're doing with this talk show series is we're not, even though we're streaming to, LinkedIn, we're not actually having those replays on LinkedIn, like the full replays. You'll have to catch the replays in the space right here that you're looking at on your screen, bit.ly and Captivating Virtual Events. We want you to experience a platform that you could possibly use for your virtual event. So all our video replays are there, and you can still have a conversation and drop us chat over there. And here's my thoughts to all of you. If you have any questions, drop in in the chat in that particular, you go to, when you get to the website there, bit.ly and Captivating Virtual Events, go to the agenda and you will see where you can actually watch the replay. Look for the episode that you're looking for, and the replay will be right there. So I just want to say thank you so much, ladies, especially Sabrina, for saying yes
Thank
to
you,
us last
Sabrina.
minute.
Thank
Because
you
I'm
guys
like,
for having me. It was wonderful. It's
you're
great to talk
welcome.
about these things.
I was telling Shanna, I'm like, I wonder who I can ask. I'm like, oh, I saw a post. Sabrina says she's been, in learning mode and training mode for the 18 months. And she's like, I have so much to share. I'm like, you make the great, guest for the show. All right, everybody. Until then, again, catch the replays right here at bit.ly and Captivating Virtual Events.
Bye.
Until next Thursday, 9 a.m. New
Never
York, or
produced
9 p.m.
alone. Never
Yes.
produced alone.
Never produce alone. Testing. All right, everybody. Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.